DDG episode 85. My name is Dave Hunt, and I'm joined by Michael Swick.
How is it going, Dave? E3 is over now. We just spoke 2 days ago. We're expecting more stuff to happen. We have some stuff to talk about this week.
Were we?
I was hoping. I mean, I signed up for a media account with the ESA and E3, so I was hoping for something to come. But we did get a Nintendo Direct that was pretty entertaining, so I'm happy. I was happy with how E3 2021 went. I know the internet has other opinions. So,
if you're looking for a little bit more in-depth coverage on E3 2021 from the weekend, Microsoft, Bethesda, Ubisoft, you should go check out the episode that's previously in this feed. We go pretty in-depth on the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday events of E3, June 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, right around that. And then this is going to be our weekly numbered episode, obviously, that you're listening to. We're going to cover some E3 stuff, a little bit of playing and watching, and we're going to just kind of roll from there. We had hopes and dreams of doing a little bit more E3 coverage, but I don't really think that the messaging out of E3 warrants any more episodes. But we'll dive into what we saw the last couple of days and our overall impressions of it in general. So we are Digital Days Gaming. We are a weekly podcast that uploads to podcast services every Thursday morning at 6 a.m. This episode might be a couple hours later, just because of earlier in the week. But you can also watch us, twitch.tv/Digital Days Gaming. I'm still slightly under the weather, so I apologize for that. My lungs aren't fully recovered. There are a bunch of show notes there's a bunch of notes in the show notes with links that you can reference and check. And follow us on Twitch, follow us on Twitter, social medias, Facebook groups, Discord. All of that is in our show notes below. Please check those out and leave a review if at all possible, especially this time of year. There might be a lot of people looking for news and coverage and searching hashtags. So this could be a great way for new people to grow and integrate into our community. So with that, we are going to jump into the news.
All right. The first thing, this is kind of something I put in the news just personally for me, because it's like the game. It's the game I'm the most excited about for this year, and that's Back 4 Blood. So Back 4 Blood had a presence throughout all of E3 weekend. I think they were at Summer Games Fest. Mm-hmm. They were at Xbox Bethesda Showcase. They did their own 20-minute video. But more and more details are coming out, and it looks like Turtle Rock, the developers, have learned from their past in terms of how like Evolve went, where it had a very convoluted DLC structure, and that ended up being like the downfall of that game. For Back 4 Blood, they are doing very smart moves, or at least I think are smart moves. They are going to allow people that don't have the DLC to continue to play with their friends that have the DLC. So it sounds like they're going to go with a more traditional way of delving out DLC. So they're not going to do the thing where like all the DLC's free and then rely on microtransactions. Looks like they're going to do paid maps and paid characters. But the benefit that they're allowing for the community is if you're in a party, only the host needs to have the DLC for everyone to play, which is very smart thing to do. It's a great way to advertise.
Doesn't fracture your community. So you
just need one of your friends to have it, and they need to be the host, and then everyone else can play the maps, the maps and whatever else that they're going to release. Love to hear it. They also said that all the DLC for like the PvP, yes, there are going to be microtransactions to purchase those, but you can also unlock all of them through character progression. It's going to be interesting to see how they balance that. That's like the one thing you would kind of have to worry about is it worth the grind for the people not to pay, or are they going to really entice people to throw money down, and what advantage that could lead to PvP? But they also said everyone's going to start off with the same pool of cards, since this game does use a card system.
I'm also okay kind of with a 50-50 system where, like, let's say that like a new DLC pack or something costs like $10 or $15, and all of a sudden I've been playing the game for like 6 weeks and I've generated roughly $7 to $9 worth of money in the game. That would prompt me to be like, well, it's only $6, or only $8 to buy. So I think that's interesting. But like you said, it'll be fascinating to see how quickly it can be earned. Because Street Fighter did something similar, Street Fighter V, and it was pretty hefty grind.
No, yeah, it definitely is a grind. That's going to be the one thing that they're going to have to show, because Evolve did very poorly, partly because of how they structured the pre-order stuff and the DLC stuff. So with this, it's good that they're...
And it just had bad betas, too.
Oh, yeah,
it had really bad betas.
Yeah,
so.
It did really well at like gaming events at E3. It was like one of those games you had to see at E3, at PAX. But the betas weren't too good, and then just how they structured the DLC just really put a bad taste in people's mouth. So looks like they're getting in front of that.
Have they talked about cross-play at all?
It is going to be cross-play. So
okay. I couldn't remember. So
yeah, that was,
and it's on Game Pass. Yeah. It's like, so that's a huge thing to help the community with cross-play. Just stay alive and find a game, because that's the most frustrating part, is when you're playing brand new game. You're playing at 2:00 in the afternoon because you're off and you just can't find games.
Yeah.
Like, that's the part that kind of like sucks for a lot of the people. And Game Pass on PC and console should automatically eliminate that thing, because people will just mess with it because it's on their subscription.
And the good thing with this is, you mentioned that they just had really bad betas for Evolve. The alpha a couple months ago showed really good promise. They are doing another open beta in August, I believe. And the game doesn't come out until October. Good. So they have a really nice roadmap, and the beta being in August means there's time for them to tweak the game come October, and they can really be the first one out right now. Especially, they're going to have a lot of competition come next year with Redfall, with Extraction. Yep. Or Extraction's this year, but like still, it's going to be...
Extraction will be before it.
But... so they're at least getting away out of some of the competition. So it's going to be Back 4 Blood and Extraction going head-to-head. And I think this might have an advantage, because Extraction has to compete with Siege.
PvP will always be higher than PvE. Like, people just love online games. Player versus player.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge... I enjoy them. I prefer PvE over PvP, but obviously there's a lot of people that play PvP.
Yeah. Next story over here. I just added it to the doc just because it's kind of funny how it's being positioned right now. The Medium is coming to PS5 in September. So this was timed exclusive for Xbox. Obviously, it came back out in February, I believe.
Yeah, January, late January, early February.
Yeah. This was a game that me and Dave, we enjoyed our time with it. Neither one of us were motivated enough to finish the game, but it was a solid enough game for that genre. Also, me and Dave aren't like the biggest people in that genre for like adventure horror games, but it definitely had an audience that enjoyed it on Xbox, so it is coming to PS5, has full DualSense control support for it, and it's going to be good. More people get to play it. I forget, there was something else going on with it. Oh, it's going to get a physical release on PS5 and Xbox Series X and S around then. So everyone will be able to get a hold of that. No word on if it's leaving like Game Pass or anything like that around the time it comes out to PS5, but I guess we'll find out 30 days before. So
yeah, usually they do like 2-week notice actually.
Yeah, so we'll find out there. But yeah, September 3rd, it's coming out to PS5. I was just talking to Dave before the podcast, and it's kind of hilarious how it's changed, where when this came out, PlayStation fans were kind of shitting on like the reviews for this, and then now that it's coming PS5, PlayStation fans are interested in it, and now Xbox fans that were really passionate about this game have lost their passion for this game, or at least in the Twitter discourse. But I pay a little too much attention to Twitter discourse when you head over to the Explore tab.
I mean, people were talking about some of the performance issues it had on S and X because it only came to Series. And everybody was like, oh, I wonder if it'll just run better on PlayStation 5. Well, statistically, stuff has been running better on the X than on the 5, in terms of frames at least, mostly.
Yeah.
Obviously, we can't tell a huge comparison. There hasn't been a true third-party next-gen only game to really tell what was or wasn't built for this hardware. So it'll be interesting to see if it does run better on PS5. I think it'll run the same.
Yeah, it'll probably run the same.
If not, maybe even a little worse.
Yeah.
So.
The SSD speed is better on the PS5, so maybe in some instances it can improve, but I don't see Digital Foundry blowing people's minds, saying like, "Oh my god, it's significantly better." It's going to be the same.
I also didn't feel like, we talked about it when we both played it, I didn't feel like the medium was doing anything super next gen only.
No, so, especially a game that we're going to talk about later, Ratchet and Clank. The Ratchet and Clank feels like a next gen game more than the medium did. The medium just seemed like a solid game.
I think we're going to have an interesting conversation about that then.
So that is the medium. The last bit, which just happened, I think today, Cyberpunk 2077 is returning to the PlayStation Store on June 21st, I believe. Yeah, June 21st, Cyberpunk 2077 is coming back to the PlayStation Store. So Sony has agreed to reinstate the game. The funny thing is, so Polygon, or The Verge, reached out. Oh, actually, it was Polygon that reached out. Polygon reached out to CD Projekt Red just to understand, like, hey, is a new patch coming out? Because the game hasn't been patched since end of April, early May.
Yeah.
And they didn't hear back. Sony confirmed the news with Polygon that yes, it's been reinstated, but they recommend not playing it on a PS4, which is crazy to me that the Sony rep said specifically this: users will continue to experience performance issues with the PS4 edition. While CD Projekt Red continues to improve stability across all platforms, Sony Interactive Entertainment recommends playing this title on a PS4 Pro or a PS5 for the best experience. So Sony is aware that the PS4 version is not fixed. It still runs bad, but it's at a state that is acceptable, I guess, to reinstate it on the store. Any thoughts specifically when it comes to Cyberpunk making its return?
I think Sony got annoyed with CD Projekt Red bothering them.
They must have, and then just the news reports
said, "Fine, whatever." It's like the kid, like, "Can I get a new mitt? Can I get a new mitt? No, you don't need a new mitt. Can I get a new mitt? Can I get a new mitt? No." And then, all right, fine, whatever. Just get away from me.
Yeah, basically. Well, especially when it comes to like CD Projekt Red going out there and being like, "Yeah, our financials haven't been good this year. Our sales aren't doing what we wanted them to do, and it's because you're missing the biggest platform." I know people were kind of expecting this news because, The Witcher came to PS Now, but I still think those are unrelated. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting to know that it's coming. I would imagine a patch isn't too far behind. I think they said there were going to be like 3 performance patches coming to the game before they would start talking about DLC. I am excited for this. I own Cyberpunk on the PS4, and I stopped playing because it was just buggy even on the PS5 and the PS4 Pro.
Yep.
I want to get back to it. I want to try it. The story was doing nothing for me, but maybe there's some more in there if I dug a little deeper. Though I don't think there's going to be much more to dig into with that game.
It sounds like a couple of people on our Facebook group were talking about it too, and they've actually, as they've been patching, been removing things like less cars, less NPCs, less stuff to pull on the game. And he said it made it feel even less dense.
Yeah,
like less, like more bland, I guess. Like it was Matt Lowe, I think, and he's like waiting. He's waiting on the PS5 official version before he does like his third character playthrough or something.
Yeah, they definitely kind of hit that point where in order to get the frame rate to not necessarily acceptable rates on the base PS4, but stable. So. They just had to remove density from a lot of things, and some textures I was seeing in some videos are kind of just like the draw distance has gotten worse, but at least close, everything's a little more stable. We'll find out what happens. I know the hacking that they recently went through definitely pushed them a little further back on their patches, but we'll see where this ends up at the end of the end of the year. Probably is when we'll get to a point where it's like, okay, this is fine. But at least there's progress. I imagine Sony wouldn't have done this without
when it wins the award for most patched game at the Video Game Awards.
Oh yeah, when it gets a continued service award, and I would imagine Sony already has like the next patch in certification, or they were given notes on the next patch before making this decision. Yeah. because there would be no reason for them to be pressured into this without them, like, at least getting CD Projekt Red to agree to, like, another waiver of quality of just, like, hey, will the frames be 20?
I can't imagine how many, like, refund requests they were getting and stuff, too, because of the way that, like, public stuff came out from CDPR.
Yeah, I'm curious. So, like, right now, like, if you can search the game again on the PlayStation Store, I don't think you can purchase it.
Which you couldn't before, so.
I'm wondering if they're going to put a warning on, like, hey, we recommend a PS4 Pro, or just no fucking refunds this time if you download it.
Right. But, I mean, ultimately, it's good that it's coming back for everybody to play it. Especially if it's something they wanted to play, then more power to them.
Yeah. And then the last thing from E3, or what felt like the E3 closer, because I know there was some other random things, the Nintendo Direct for this E3, I guess, or the Summer Direct, did...
Yeah, no, they called it E3 Direct. So.
They did not announce a new system, which everyone was saying was going to happen before E3, and then people were like, oh, they're saving it for E3. Nintendo does shit on their own time, and they don't care how many times it gets leaked that they have one. They have a day in their minds that they'll announce the new Switch, and they will wait till that day no matter how much stuff leaks. So just hold expectations down for that. But there was some good stuff in this.
When they want to do it, they'll say, hey, we're going to do a Nintendo Direct in 2 days, and we're going to talk about the future of hardware. Like, they'll just be right up front about it.
Yeah. And I think that's why a lot of people were like, we didn't cover it on the show, but the last, like, month or so has been people being like, all right, this week there's going to be the Direct that drops the new consoles. And it's mostly just because I think the people that break that news assume that Nintendo's going to bend because stuff leaked, and that's just not how Nintendo functions. Right. Like, Nintendo could care less.
Well, and also, like, based on what we saw at the Direct today, they had a lot of stuff to show, and they have a lot of stuff coming this year and coming to the Switch. Mm-hmm. They don't need to push, like, a new hardware. Like, they teased Breath of the Wild 2, but they showed it, and I think that them putting 2022 release date on it means that we're probably not seeing a Switch Pro or new Switch until holiday 2022, if I had to guess at this point in time. Like, maybe in the spring, like summer, like June, I guess, but they usually don't release consoles in the middle of the year. So, like, they showed a lot, they dated a lot, and they, even a little treehouse thing they did afterwards, they showed gameplay. Like, they did what we want from a lot of companies.
Yeah. And one thing that I think people have to realize, Nintendo, like, yes, during the Wii, they may have taken advantage of shortages to sell the Wii a little bit more. I don't think they want to release a Switch that no one can buy. They want to make sure their inventory is all set for that, and don't want this holiday to be the bloodbath it's going to be for PS5s and Series X's. They want to probably stay out of that and get their inventory to a manageable level, and also just hope.
But it also comes down to, like, the majority of consumers don't have Xbox Series or PS5s. We know that. I mean, because people are still complaining that they can't get one. So a lot of those people have money set aside, and they're trying to get it. Like, whether they're trying to curbside it or online order it or wait for stock to come in or just get lucky. They're not going to be able to drop another $300 or $400 on another system. Yeah. Like, they just bought it last year, or they're buying it this year. Like, people can't. The average consumer can't spend $1,000 on hardware in a 12 to 15 month period, and Nintendo knows that as well. And we've seen how many. What are they talking about? Like 7 million PS5s out there? Yeah. 4 million Xboxes. Like, that's a lot of customers that probably don't have the cash to do another Switch. That when you're already looking at Xbox Series and PS5 and going, did we really need it?
Yeah.
Right now. So.
Well, and also just like the cost, like you mentioned, the cost you have to put aside for a PS5 and a Series X. The Switch lives in its own little bubble to where, like, there are people that, yes, they would buy whichever one's available, but there'll be people that if they buy the Switch and then the PS5s become readily available the following week, they're not going to go out and buy the PS5. They're going to hold on to that PS5 money they put aside for a PS5. They might drop down for a Series X. But realistically, they're not even going to, drop down even further for whatever the Switch Pro is. They're going to hold on to that money for a next-gen console.
Especially in the first year, when the only company that's really going to be taking advantage of the new Switch hardware is going to be Nintendo, which is probably only going to be like 2 games.
Which would be Breath of the Wild enhanced.
Zelda and Pokemon or something. So
you're talking about like two different markets. Yes, as PlayStation and Series X people are going to want to Switch, but if they're trying to get a Series X or a PS5, that is their priority over dropping $300 for a Switch, which, to be fair, is just going to be an underpowered, next-gen system.
It's going to be more than... It has to be more than $300, though, because the current one's $300.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. It's going to probably replace that one, or it's going to be $400.
$400.
Yeah. All right, let's get into the Direct. 38-minute Direct. No need to go through everything that was in this Direct, but there were some good notable things. My game of the show, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, is coming to Switch. It's going to be...
Makes me feel a little better about how it's been presented.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is the cloud version of Guardians of the Galaxy, which is something Square Enix, Capcom have been doing on a Switch, where you're streaming the game. You're paying full price for it, but you're streaming it. It actually works pretty well on the Switch. That is an actual reasonable way to play games. So Guardians is coming. Then we also had new fighter for God. They have so many fighters now.
Yeah, that roster's so big.
It's kind of crazy. Kazuha is, sorry, I mispronounced that. Sorry, I'm not the biggest Tekken guy. Tekken character coming over to Smash Brothers, which is pretty funny because like Bandai Namco's have been developing Smash Brothers this entire time. And I believe Tekken is franchises there, so they're finally getting one of their characters in it, or another character of theirs in this game, which is nice. We got a little bit more of Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope in there.
The biggest thing I got from that is it looks like the turn base is changing a little bit, or you can kind of just go wherever you want on the map.
Yes, yeah. We got like basically a little bit more. Even though they didn't spend a lot of time with it, we at least got to see a little bit more of the
I think Ubisoft kind of has control of that to an extent.
Yeah.
I think Nintendo will get to show the date whenever they date it, but I think it's like Nintendo's allowing Ubisoft, and Ubisoft has done a good job with it. So
yeah, they definitely have. I think they've earned like Nintendo's respect to be like, all right, just do what you want with this, but we get to say the release date.
And obviously it sold well enough that they let them do a second game. So
surprisingly, we're getting a Wario game, which looks fun. Wario is just like mini or macro games, I believe they're called.
That doesn't look like a $50 game.
No, it's not. But that's this Nintendo tax.
That's how much it costs.
I know. But it's always a fun franchise, or it's always been a fun series of games. It's funny though because they announced Nintendo Garage a couple weeks ago, or like a month ago, and everyone just assumed that would be the replacement for WarioWare, and then they announced a WarioWare game, which is just hilarious how that just works out. This Nintendo kind of being Nintendo. Mario Party Superstars is coming out. I was really hoping this would be an expansion to current Mario Party, which just added online play. But Mario Party Superstars is a collection of 100 minigames from previous Mario Party games. That's a really cool idea, and it's going to have online out of the box as opposed to being patched several years later. Mm-hmm. And that's coming out October 29th. So Nintendo did this a couple times in this, where they're just like, hey, here's something we're revealing today for the first time, and also it's coming out this year.
Yeah. There's a lot of like 3DS kind of stuff that's been on 3DS for a while that they're bringing to the Switch, and not necessarily like a port to the Switch, but their version of it to the Switch, and it's coming in the next 3-4 months.
Super Monkey Ball, Ball Banana Mania. This is 300 recreated levels because it's the 20th anniversary of Super Monkey Ball, which has always been a franchise. I love the Super Monkey Ball franchise, but honestly, I probably owned just 2 of the games in the franchise, but it's one of those ones that I always enjoy. This is also coming out this year, October 5th, which is just them just, hey, here's it, a Switch exclusive, and it's coming out like in a couple months.
Yeah.
Something I was super excited about, Danganronpa Decadence. This is a collection of the first 3 Danganronpa games and a new game called Danganronpa S Ultimate Summer Camp. This is basically fan favorite characters from the Danganronpa franchise playing like an extended version of the board game that was featured in the 3rd game. So this collection is 4 games, though you can buy each one of the games separately on the eShop. Really cool looking special edition with like posters, lithograph cards, steelbook coming out for that. So I'm super excited by that.
And you can buy the game separately.
Yeah. Buying them separately on the eShop's going to be fantastic just because I'm hoping they price them reasonably. This isn't Nintendo proper releasing it, so there's a chance it will be priced reasonable. It's still NIS, I believe. So that's coming later this year.
What's your reasonable price for it, though? Like $40?
For each game?
No, I mean for the collection. Like, is the collection a $60 collection?
I think because you're adding that.
It's 4 games.
Yeah, I think $60 for the 4 games. But individually, I'm hoping the games are at like $20 each.
Okay.
And then, I would have to see like what
they're doing.
Yeah, especially Summer Camp. Because like Danganronpa 1 and 2, those are Vita games. So, and those were $40 or $30 Vita games. So I'm expecting it just to be those Vita games on the Switch. Because the Switch is basically the grown-up Vita, I guess. Or the Vita people played. Other things, they showed a little bit of Skyward Sword HD, which I forgot was coming out next month.
Yeah.
When they said, coming out next month, and I was just like, I know I must have missed the announcement, but...
No, it came in that last Nintendo Direct that when they showed the Joy-Cons and everything, they dated it. But they haven't really done any talking about it since. It's kind of one of those things where I feel like they're just throwing it there because they don't have much for Zelda's anniversary. As we can see later that they don't have much for Zelda's anniversary.
The Game & Watch stuff was pretty cool. We could just jump to that. The game...
I think it's an interesting concept, but I don't have any desire to pick it up, and I love Zelda.
Yeah, it's the first 3 Zelda games on the Game & Watch thing that they released a Game & Watch last year, I believe, so just a little portable handheld thing. It retails for $50. That's one of those things that, like...
Oh, is that how much? It's only
it's only $50,
okay,
so it's not too bad of a thing. It's actually reasonably priced for Nintendo if that's the exact price. I'm using Bleeding Cool's rundown of this as I hop around to stuff that I thought was noteworthy. Yeah. That's one of those things you get as a gift for someone that's a Zelda fan, if you get a hold of it. All right, let's talk about what I think is the biggest thing in the show, but I know what the actual big thing for people it was. Metroid Dread. So... Metroid Prime 4 is still being worked on. It is not canceled. They're still working on it. They have nothing to show for it. But they announced a new 2D Metroid game called Metroid Dread. This looks pretty fucking cool. Or at least I thought it looks really cool.
No, it does. I love 2D. You guys know I love 2D side-scrolling games. I grew up on Metroid. And this is... I'm not a huge fan of the Prime franchise. My... 3D scale for shooters has evolved tremendously in the last 5 to 6 years, obviously. But I probably should go back and check out some of the Metroid stuff, but I don't even think it's on the Switch at this point in time.
No.
So I'm not 100% for certain on that, but this is Cyber Shadow, this is Messenger, this is all these games that have been coming out for years. Like, this is the first 2D side-scrolling Metroid game we've gotten in 19 years. 19 years. Like... And he's moving. Is moving fast.
Yeah, it looks really good. At one point, like the camera switched perspectives in the trailer. It just looks fantastic, and it's coming out this year. Like, it's going to be out October 8th. October is like Nintendo's month. But I honestly like the Prime games, but I wasn't really excited for Prime 4, just because when I think of the Prime games, they just, I don't know, I feel like they probably have aged poorly, even though it's been a long time since I played them. But seeing this one, I was really excited for. I think this is like the best thing that we saw at the Nintendo Direct, because everything else was like, it was pretty exciting stuff, but it was like, hey, here's a lot of old games. Here's Doom Eternal DLC, here's Strange Brigade, here's Fatal Frame, here's Worms Rumble. It's like stuff that was like pretty basic. Like the Danganronpa was the thing I was excited for before this, and those games are now several years old, for at least the first two. Metroid Dread, though I do laugh at the name, because like Metroid feels like that franchise that Nintendo is like annoyed that they still have to support. So
yeah, but watch it be like the October NPD #1.
It's gonna be.
No,
it's gonna be, and Nintendo is gonna be reminded again.
And I don't want to hear anything about some Nintendo bump bull crap. Like, this is Metroid. Yeah. Like, you got people that are 40, 45, 50, 55 years old that are gonna see a commercial for this, and they're gonna go buy a Switch because they haven't had that game in 20 years. Like, it's gonna happen. Yeah. Just like it did with Animal Crossing. So you find out all these people that, the pandemic didn't hurt it, obviously, but there was people that were talking about Animal Crossing and talking about getting their hands on a Switch that I don't think picked up a controller since they were in high school and they're my age, because they needed something to do, and they forgot how much they enjoyed playing games. And a game like Metroid is going to reinvigorate an older audience, as well as introduce a younger audience to games that kick your ass. Yeah, no, and this is, but it always feels like Metroid is that franchise that Nintendo would prefer to forget. But it's gonna make them a shit ton of money, and I could see them almost being annoyed of like, God, we're gonna have to make sure Prime 4 comes out because people really want Metroid games after this. This will be super successful. It looks really good. I don't really know who's developing it. I'm sure I could find that out with a few clicks on Google, but they've been really good at partnering. I don't really care who's developing it.
Oh, no, for sure. Like, but they've been pretty good at like partnering with third-party studios to work on their franchises. So I have faith in that this will be like a competent, decent to great Metroid game. They announced a special edition for it too, which looks really nice.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's with like a steel book, and it's got like a art book that comes with it and some stuff. So. That could be something that I could see myself pre-ordering, as I've been getting into collector's editions lately. And then, of course, they ended the show with a look at Breath of the Wild, and then saying that it is going to launch in 2022. They will probably do their own event probably later this year, because it is like the 30th anniversary of Zelda, but they only had like a brief teaser. I'm not the biggest Zelda fan, so I'll let Dave talk about if anything looked cool in this. Or
they didn't really. They didn't show much. I got more info from people afterwards, like breaking stuff down what they saw. There's speculation of underground levels, on ground levels, and in the air levels. Obviously, in the air was shown in the trailer. It's not uncommon for Zelda to take the game to the sky. It's something that they've done previously, but there's speculation of playing as Ganon, different timelines, playing as Zelda, and playing as Link as well, depending on where you are in the whether you're in the air, on the ground, or in the dungeons. And speculation of like maybe playing as Zelda in the dungeons, playing Ganon on the ground level, and playing Link in the skies. But that's just that's just people like freezing the trailers and circling a small corner of it and going, look, this is why I think this.
Why is his arm that way, basically?
Right. So I'm glad they gave us a year. I don't think it's coming in 2022. Zelda games have always been delayed. But what they showed looks just more Breath of the Wild. I haven't completed it, various reasons. I haven't focused on it. But it doesn't mean it's not good, bad, or indifferent. I really enjoyed it. I just got to get back into it. But as a second one, anytime there's new Zelda stuff coming, it's always great for the game. It's great for Nintendo. It's great for gaming. So.
But that was Nintendo's press conference. That was E3 basically, because other developers did some basic stuff, but it wasn't anything major. I was really happy with what Nintendo did, and I'm also really happy with how E3 went this year. I know a lot of people are negative about like, oh, not enough gameplay was shown, or there wasn't too many like there wasn't too many surprises, but I said this on Twitter. After going a year without having anything like E3, I was just happy to have something this year. And I came away with like a list, especially at the Nintendo press conference, of a ton of games that are coming out this year that I'm excited to play. I miss Sony.
This is where some of the, obviously, but this is where everybody goes, oh, E3's dead. It wouldn't be dead because you and I would be talking about us playing Guardians of the Galaxy because we would have played it, or it would have been playable to the public, or there would have been some other cool games that we would have had a chance to get some hands on and to check out, an indie game, or
all the Devolver stuff,
having the opportunity, like just to see some of those things and to talk about it and to give you guys like either a brief write up, a YouTube video, a conversation about why we liked it, like. It doesn't do it any justice just to see a trailer, like, people you trust or people you go to that have been going to E3 or getting their hands on the game. Like I can almost guarantee, like, we would have been able to play Rainbow Six Extraction. I would have been able to talk to you about how it felt. I would have been able to play Far Cry, even if it would have only been like a 10-minute demo. Like I would have played it.
Based on,
or Michael would have played it.
We would have played Guardians. We would have played every Devolver game because we always play every Devolver game. There would have been so many things that we would have played and other people would have played, because like even though me and Dave try to cover a bunch of stuff at E3, the best part is when we run into like Chandler or someone else and we're like, hey, what did you guys play? And they tell us something we didn't know existed, and that's something that was missed this year. And I think that's why, like, I watched the Guerrilla Collective, I watched the Wholesome thing, but there was just so many things in there, and because I didn't get to play it, nothing really grabbed my attention. Because I think the indie games suffer the most during like
those are all the half hour things we have. Michael's schedule used to be filled with that, with previously with PS Nation, where you look at his schedule and it'd be like 2 o'clock, 2:30, 3 o'clock, 3:30, 4 o'clock, 4:30, and he's like, oh, I'm running the indie gamut, like, and Michael loved it, and he would talk for 45 minutes on 5 games that he enjoyed playing, and then they would come out and he'd talk about them later, and that's not happening, and that will not go away. Like, and I maybe it'll go away from an E3 standpoint, but I would love to see, I don't even know, like an indie showcase in Denver, or like a PAX, like that, indie PAX or something in Denver or Seattle, or I don't even know,
Bit
Texas,
Bash in
wherever.
Chicago. Like, there hasn't been a Bit Bash in like 2 years because the pandemic.
Yep. And that stuff is like, there's going to be some games that fall through the cracks, or hopefully you guys listen to us on a regular basis. And that's Michael's bread and butter. Like those, but the unfortunate part is that we're not getting in front of those people. We're not seeing them. We're not, saying, hey, I played it, I liked it. Oh, cool. So in 3 months when the game comes out, the developer's like, hey, that Michael guy really liked that game. I got to make sure I send it to him now, because so.
Well,
and that it had nothing to do with PS Nation. It had to do with Michael's relationship that he had with the developer, because he actually showed interest and cared about the game. All of his interviews that he used to do, like that, all sparks interest, and that's the kind of stuff that he used to love to stream, and that's the stuff that's not getting the attention it deserves it's not getting the attention it deserves with the pandemic going on, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, like I believe Tunic was in the Summer Games Fest. It's like a top-down.
There's a demo for it on Xbox. Yeah, there's a demo for it.
I played that 3 years ago at Bit Bash and talked to people behind that game, and I think I played that at like in E3, that weird indie round building thing that we did.
Yeah, Indiecade or whatever.
Where we were just like in this round room and there was just demos all over the place. But yeah, that stuff suffers without an E3. But I was still happy with that everyone was able to put on press conferences. Yeah, the Capcom press conference really only was like an advertisement for games coming out in a couple weeks.
But they would have been on Sony's stage, or they would have been on Xbox's stage. But then their Xbox is like, we don't really, do your own thing. Like, and that's kind of what they didn't have any presence. Like, I feel like that Capcom stuff, they should have, I don't know what Keighley said or didn't say to them, but that would have been a great get for Keighley. They would have, instead of like Capcom trying to do their own thing. But, these companies are trying, and then I guess we'll see what they learn or what they don't learn, or how they adjust or they don't adjust. We didn't even talk about it, but that Coach Media thing was terrible.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where I don't, like, people were really mean to the Coach Media thing, but they tried their best. They clearly just didn't have anything to show. But Coach Media is one of those companies that me and Dave, if we know it or not, have had several meetings with Coach Media because they always have something. And sometimes we'll play a game from Coach Media that's like, oh, this isn't out for like 2 or 3 years. And you can't do that on a live stream. You can only show something horribly early if you're in person with someone and then you have a developer explain like, hey, so like we're going to fix this, this, and this. This is not final. And you have that context. You're going to miss so many things. You're only going to see the most polished product basically when you're doing.
Yeah, we can play and then see the potential and see what they're trying to get towards, but they can't show it.
Yeah, because then that's all people are going to remember. It's going to be,
and that sucks. That sucks for the developers.
Yeah, but overall, I'm happy with everyone showed because I understand the context of like they're only going to show us stuff that's near final because they can't have a bad first impression because there's no context that they could put around it once it's out there. But I think Ubisoft did an okay job or good job. I think Summer Games Fest was good. I think Xbox was really good. Nintendo Direct was really good. I think everyone did, okay to good based on the circumstances of pandemic, ESA seeming like they kind of just threw this together like very haphazardly. But I'm happy with it. And like, I understand people wanted more gameplay. People may have wanted more surprises, but you can't always get that, especially under these circumstances. So, and like, I think the only thing I missed is Sony, doing something, but I can see PlayStation doing another thing probably in like a month or two.
July.
Maybe by TGS, because TGS will have a digital event that we'll probably hear from some Japanese studios with some exclusives for that. But overall, pretty happy with how things turned out the last like 2 days or last weekend.
Yeah. All right. So what we're playing and watching. Mine is obviously I've still been recovering from bronchitis, sinus infection that I had. So I've been kind of lounging around. I am on vacation this week, so that did allow me to start and complete, as of recording this episode, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart.
Nice.
I completed it just before we started recording. It's good. It's good. It's Ratchet and Clank, and I'm enjoying it. And this is where I think we're gonna have an interesting conversation and I know like there's a couple people in chat too. Like, I don't know how I feel how it being next gen. It looks great. The colors are great. The enemies on the screen are great. The Rift mechanic is not as cool as they were presenting it to be.
Yeah, so I think my save file says like 20%, 21%, just because I worked most of the weekend. So
yeah, my completion, just for the record, my completion is like 68, 69% right now. I did not delve deep into like arena content. And I there's a couple like side things that you can just like kind of randomly stumble upon that I didn't realize that I was or wasn't doing. So if they naturally happen, I did them, but I didn't really seek anything out.
I think of the PS5 exclusives that we've gotten so far, we're talking Astrobot, Demon Souls, Returnal, Miles. I think Ratchet and Clank is hands down the best looking of them all.
I would agree with that. But I think that this game could have run on PS4.
No, I don't. I think enough of the stuff with the rifts.
Other than the load times, man. Like, the load times were great. Like, going from planet to planet was great. The rifts happened in cutscenes. Like, they might have been more of a challenge.
They might have been too much of a challenge.
The in-game rift mechanic was a little disappointing to me, because all you're doing is moving from one side of the screen to the other.
I think that's enough to where that's why it couldn't have been on PS4. I agree with you. In the trailers, it seemed like you had a little bit more control over that, which you don't.
Or you were going somewhere completely different, not just to the other side of the arena that you're already fighting in.
Yeah, there were some instances where they moved you, but then you were in that section until they moved you again.
Yeah.
So I will agree with that, but I think from a visual standpoint, what visual mode did you put it on? I put it on...
Just what default. I think I did 30 frames.
You did 30 frames. So I have found out I can't do 30 frames if a 60 frames option is available, because I can't stop myself from looking at the 60 frames. So they did. Oh,
I thought, like, I just played it and then I realized that there was a mode and I went to check it and I was like, all right, whatever.
When they put me in that setting thing.
I might do another playthrough and I might change it to 60, but it didn't make me do it before I played. So I just, whatever was defaulted, I just did it.
So like when you're starting your file, you can scroll down to it or just hit start. You probably just hit start.
Yeah. I did. Yeah. I just wanted to play it. I mean, but I was fine. I did it like whatever difficulty wise, I was right in the middle. Like there's like 2 above it and two below it. So I was like right in the middle. I enjoyed it. Like, don't get me wrong, it's great. I love the fact that it was, I don't even know, like 12 hours, maybe 13 hours. Like to be honest, I was beelining it. I had a great time with it, start to finish. Played it, enjoyed it. Boss battle at the end, a little basic.
Yeah. We'll go in depth about the game soon.
The story is really good. The second half of the story is really, really good. I don't want to sound negative about it, but I mean, keep your expectations in check. It's a really good game. Yeah. It's a great game, but I don't feel like Rivet is that much different than Ratchet. So it doesn't really feel that different. So it's almost like a shared cooperative character. And it's not. It's just. Maybe I'm just being too critical of it. I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. I think the story was really good. It just didn't feel super next gen to me. And Rivet didn't feel that much different than Ratchet.
See, me overall, like only 20% into it. I think it feels next gen when looking at all the first party output. It made me realize that like Sony has done a really good job of having like a diverse lineup of games within the first, what are we now, like 8 months in?
6 months.
Yeah, to where, if you think about it, it's like Miles Morales, Astrobot, Sackboy Adventure, Demon Souls, Returnal, and then now Ratchet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about Demon Souls, Returnal, and Ratchet are the only 3 that you can play on PS5.
And Astrobot.
And Astrobot's So those 4, of those 4, Ratchet's the best.
Ratchet is the best. And I think it has done the thing that like a lot of games try and do, where it's like the transition from the cutscene to the gameplay.
Yeah, phenomenal.
Like amazing. The closest we've gotten to where it's like you can only barely tell that there's a difference between gameplay and cutscene.
They did the only reason I could really tell is because they did a lot of like cutscene and then your character's just standing there, versus like Uncharted would do cutscene transition to like, oh wait, I'm in control.
Walk into it and then as the character's walking, it transitions to that. But I'm just really impressed with how it is right now, and it's been a long time since I played a Ratchet game. I haven't played the last 3 Ratchet games probably. And it makes me just more impressed.
Well, even if you have, it's been the most. The remake and then All for One. Like the remake was a while ago, and that was.
I haven't played
I'm not demeaning
any
it, but it was
PS3
a remake.
Ratchets.
So.
Last Ratchet I played was PS2. So for me, I'm just like, this is what I always wanted Ratchet to be.
It's really good. It's definitely worth the $70. Like, it's got a solid beginning, middle, and end. It's got some great gameplay. It's got over the top weapons. Really great voice acting and storytelling. Like it's a Sony game. It's there. It's a top tier. But it wasn't pulling on the like. Okay, like I didn't have any moments in the game where I'm like, oh, like I can't do this on a PS4.
Yeah,
that's all. Like,
I do say like again only 20% into the game. But after playing Miles and this, and then Spider-Man Remastered, I think Insomniac is definitely gunning for number 1 at Naughty Dog, and I love that there's like, I'm sure it's...
If they want to continue to make games every 6 to 9 months that are 12 hours gone, like, I'm down. Let's go.
Especially the lengthwise, if
you want to keep doing Miles and Ratchet stories, like if you want to do a Rivet story, like a 6 to 9 hour story, let's go. Like, I don't even care if it's the same planets. Just tell me give me more of her story.
And the $70 price, I don't give a shit. Like it's really good.
Yeah. It looked great. It was fun to play. The weapon wheel, switching weapons, shooting stuff, moving stuff, dodging. Like I was having a good time.
I love that there's the performance ray tracing mode. That's the mode I'm playing it on, so it's mostly 60 frames. I'll
probably mess around. Like I was looking at some trophies. The full disclosure, I played it on our Michael and I share an account.
Yeah.
Michael gets the privilege of using his own.
No, you can too now.
PSN account,
I believe.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
so
I'll have to check that
on
out.
PS5 it's a little weird. Like I was like wondering about that because there's like no.
Mine still have locks on them.
Oh,
so.
It does. Okay, that's weird. Okay.
Yeah, so it's fine. Anyway, but Michael and I share a PSN account. I don't want to be like that guy on Twitter that gets called out for his trophy score or his achievement score or something like that when somebody looks
my
it up.
trophies are so messed up because I sometimes use the shared account and not realize it, or I've used Sarah's account and not realize it. I'm like,
well, I have some people that will message me like, hey man, I haven't seen you online in a couple of days. Is everything okay?
Yeah.
And which is great. I love the fact that you guys are worried about me. That's fantastic. But like as an example, I've been playing on the other account and I don't appear under my own account, and I played and completed Ratchet and Clank. So
like I keep my trophies hidden, but since I just kind of stopped caring about trophies, I sometimes just click the first name that's in my system, and sometimes that's Sarah's account, and it's like, oh, I just beat all of.
And I mean, trophies are what they are, but a lot of people are going to be like, hey, like you've been talking about Ratchet and you haven't even started it. Okay, well, I'm giving you guys disclosure before I get like my feet to the fire, get like a witch trial.
Oh, that's why I put all my shit private, just because I've had that happen a couple times with the last outlet where people are like, you didn't 100% the trophies. Can you really review it? And it's just like, I beat the story. Fuck off.
So I mean that's really all I've been playing.
I don't really have anything.
I watched I've been watching a little, just like the NBA playoffs are pretty interesting right now. I've been watching some of the games near the end, and then I watched it was on Paramount Plus, and we have Paramount Plus, which is like the old CBS app that we pay for, that mostly for like NCIS and some of the CBS shows that we watch, but there's a movie called Infinite on there that's a Paramount Plus only movie. It's a Wahlberg movie, Mark Wahlberg, and it was okay. It kind of gave me like a kind of a Wanted vibe to it. If you guys remember the movie Wanted,
the curving bullets.
Nothing like spectacular, nothing great. Some pretty cool action scenes, interesting story. I don't feel well, obviously, and I'm on vacation, so I'm just kind of like watching whatever, because I don't really have any motivation to like invest in anything crazy. I did watch Loki. I thought that was really good.
It had that like, not as good as Wanda's first episode, but it had that like personality and charm that Wanda had in its first episode that I don't think Falcon and Winter Soldier had its first episode.
I agree. So I'm still watching Big Shot, even though Michael doesn't like the show. I'm still going to keep watching.
Enjoy your John Stamos.
It's almost over.
Show.
So. And that's really been it for playing and watching. I haven't really found anything else. It's getting near summer, obviously, so a couple of these shows are kind of like winding down. Some stuff that we've been watching, we found out got canceled. So it's like I've gone back again to Superman and Lois on CW. You can watch it for free on the CW app. It's taken a little while, but it's actually pretty good now. Like I was like, they've done some interesting things with the story and the dynamic and the character building, and it's really good. And I'm enjoying it. There's still that delicate balance of it's a Superman show, but it's also about Lois and the kids. And it's getting a little bit better each episode. It took like 8 episodes. I'm like, okay, now I want to know what happens next. But that's been pretty much it for playing and watching for me.
Yeah, so for me, it's been just Ratchet and Clank. I had like 2 people quit at work, so I've been having to change my schedule around, which is why we're recording Tuesday night instead of Tuesday afternoon. So just Ratchet and Clank, and occasionally messing with Knockout City, because that's still a really good game to just do 20-minute rounds or 20-minute sessions and get like 5 matches in. So focusing on that, I did get like a cool Switch accessory for review today, which I wasn't really expecting, but it just kind of came in. It's called it's like the Fixture FIXTUR gaming carrying case, and it's just a carrying case for the Switch, but it comes with this this bracket thing that you put on the Switch if you take the Joy-Cons off, and then it has another bracket under it to put the Pro Controller. So it's made for the Pro Controller and the Switch.
I've seen some of these advertisement things where it's a controller mount.
Yeah, it's a controller mount and a controller switch, and I figured that'd be something cool, because a lot of the things that dictate what I'd play on my Switch is whether I have to use the Joy-Cons or not, and if I have to use the Joy-Cons, there's only very few games that I will just play Joy-Cons, so this allows me to play the Switch on the go a little bit more.
Well, plus, like, from a traveling standpoint, the little bit that I've had with the Switch in a car, depending on the road that you're on, if you get a little bit too much vibration, sometimes the Joy-Cons will disconnect.
Yeah, they're very sensitive. It seems pretty solid. I have to find a way to test the case without breaking the case, just because the case could... It feels solid, but I don't know...
Just put the Switch in the case, zip it up, and let your cats play with it, see what happens.
Oh, they already sat on it, because it's pretty big, because it holds the Pro Controller, the Switch itself, and the bracket.
That's cool.
So it can hold all into one at the same case. So I'm going to be testing that for the next week or two, just because seemed like a cool thing to review, and I'm interested in using my Pro Controller, which I bought probably 6 months ago, and I used it once.
Yeah.
So give me an opportunity to do that. So I'll probably play more Switch games that I've been like.
Yeah, my Pro Controller got the most use from Immortals. Obviously, Ubisoft sent it to me because they wanted me to play Immortals with it. But seeing like I said, Owen has it's Owen's, but I can play it obviously if I want to. Owen has that Mario Rabbids game, so I might actually like bring the Switch downstairs and try to see if I can stream some of that stuff because Stars of Hope comes out sometime next year. I don't really think I've done too much stuff in the Mario Rabbids world, but it might be something nice to mess with during the summer. And stream it.
Yeah, I bought like a second Switch dock, but I bought like the Insignia branded one, and that one works pretty well.
Yeah, I need to.
It was like $30, I think, and it actually wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
And it works just as well. And then so that's it for playing, and then watching. I've just been watching really bad movies for the podcast I'm doing. For every movie ever. I just watched the Smurfs movie, and we had like an hour discussion on the first Smurfs movie.
Wow.
And before that, we watched something that
I'm gonna put it out there right now. I don't want to be a guest on that show because whatever you assign to me would probably be terrible.
Oh god! So like for every movie ever, we randomly roll the movies. That's like the whole gimmick with it.
Yeah. Isn't there like a Netflix
yeah
app
it's
or something? Yeah.
Real Good, I think, but it's REEL.
Okay. Yeah.
It rolled something called Super Monsters Forever Friends, which is like an hour Netflix kids movie, like animated thing, and then it rolled the Smurfs movie. So me and my friend had to watch both movies back to back, and we had like a 2-hour discussion on both movies. So I've been torturing myself a lot. I also recently watched Hometown Holiday, which is like a Hallmark romantic comedy that was awful.
Oh, I'm sorry. Like I already, you talking about terrible movies sometimes reminded me of this. I watched. It's not that it was terrible. Raya, the Last Dragon.
How was that?
On Disney Plus? It was good. It was kind of just your classic Disney movie, but
is it already on Plus or is it Premiere?
It's on. It's past the Premiere thingy, so you don't have to pay for it. It's part of your Plus subscription now. It's past the 90 days or whatever. I'll put it this way: like I'm happy that we didn't pay $30 to watch it, but I'm happy that it's on Disney Plus. Like, I think it's a really good movie. And like Owen came into the room like, I've seen this, and I'm like, all right, well, good for you. Go away.
Like, well, then you can go to bed. And then he's like, damn.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I know that like Disney's been getting some bad PR about like how they handled Mulan and stuff like that, but I liked how they handled the culture of what was going on in the show, in this movie, in terms of the world being fractured and you know, obviously the feel good story of things being put back in place. Again, I'm sorry, I'm really terrible with names, but the voice actor of the female dragon who was in Crazy Rich Asians,
in Star Wars,
yeah, she did a great job. So. Like
that's definitely something I have to watch. I'm gonna have to have that debate when Black Widow comes to Disney Plus on whether I do.
Is it coming to Disney Plus? I thought it was coming to. Maybe I missed that. Did they say it's going to do the
premiere in theaters? So at the same time, it'll be premiere in theaters, and
because I know we're going. My daughter's already been talking about it. She was trying to buy tickets the other day to Fast 9.
Yeah, I just.
I'm like I want to go to the theater. I told her I go, look, I want to go to the theater. I go, I am not going to the theater Thursday or Friday night.
Yeah.
I was like, that is not happening. We can go on like a Saturday morning or a Sunday afternoon, or, you know, like maybe one of my random Tuesdays off that she has that she's home. I go, but I am not going to the theater on an opening night. Like, and I wouldn't like to do that if the pandemic wasn't going on, for the record.
People in Chicago are acting up again, so I don't know if I'm quite ready to go to a theater yet. So I'm probably gonna end up paying the $30.
Ansel's like, we're going to the theater for Black Widow. That's fine. I go, we're not going to the theater opening night.
Yeah, so. No, I definitely wouldn't do opening night with people acting up.
And again, I wouldn't do it 3 years ago either. I just don't like to be like. Full movie theaters don't bother me, but I don't like this whole like I gotta wait in line to buy my ticket. I get irritated like very quickly, especially for something that I don't think there should be lines. Like I have the same problem with traffic. Like traffic. Logistically in my mind doesn't make sense to me, and I'm like, just drive, please. And then these people waiting in line or taking their time to get to their seats, or it's just ugh.
No, I used to be I need to see the Marvel movie opening night, and then I went from like I need to see the Marvel movie opening weekend, and now I'm just like I'll see the Marvel movie within the first 2 weeks and I'll be okay. And now with Premiere, I'm just gonna pay the $30 and just watch it at home.
Yeah.
Have good food instead of paying $20 for a thing of popcorn.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that. I mean, we've got a great TV, but I mean, Angela seems to be pretty stuck on going to the theaters, so we'll see. The amount of if me, my daughter, and my wife go to the theater to watch this movie, that's as much as it would cost me to get it on Plus, and I get it for 30 days.
Yeah. That's it for me for playing and watching. Just Ratchet and Clank and the Smurfs movie. That was my weekend.
All right. Sorry. Questions and comments you can send to us using hashtag AskDigitalDays. You can post them in the Discord. You can post them on Facebook, Twitter, anywhere. Michael put some posts up there asking for some questions. You don't have to wait for that. If you come up with a question, you can just ask. So Lebetsky, more likely to come out this year, Halo Infinite or Horizon Zero Dawn? You go first.
Halo Infinite. All of Halo Infinite? I don't know. But Halo Infinite will come out.
Yeah,
I think both of them
Halo.
will come. I think both of them are coming out this year, but if you tell me one's going to slip into next year, it's Horizon. Yeah.
I think that I agree with you. But I also think that Sony might be looking at what's happened over the last 2 or 3 days and going, you know what? February looks really good.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff coming out. Because I feel like Horizon would be a perfect September game. But if it was a September game, I think we would have the date already.
Yeah. I mean, like, unless maybe they do something at the end of this month and they say September 20th and they give you like the 60-day notice.
October's packed.
I mean,
so
yeah, October's packed. Early November is what it is, and then you get into the
they
holidays.
can squeeze maybe like the week before Thanksgiving, but that would be the latest I would see it if it comes out this year.
Yeah, but I still think that if like February looks good.
Yeah.
Like and they always had success in their mid-February, early March games. They've always been successful.
Yeah.
So like everything kind of calms down, and Halo's coming. Like Halo, like they need Halo out in November just for Game Pass subscriptions.
And
it has to happen.
The way Halo and a multiplayer is being separated, I wouldn't be surprised if one comes out before the other, even though they keep reiterating that will not happen.
Or they're gonna seasonalize the campaign.
Oh,
and they're gonna release the campaign in like 3 month chunks. They're gonna release, I don't even know how many hours it would be, but the first 5 or 6 hours in November, and then release more.
We'll have
of it later.
the epilogue, but in reality, the epilogue's the actual ending.
Halo Infinite Episode 1. I could see that, but I don't know. Like the multiplayer is gonna, and then kudos to them as well. I know you guys don't like me talking positive about Xbox, but they came out and said that the seasonal content that's going to be in Halo, you can buy later. Mm-hmm. So like if you don't play for like 2 seasons and you see something you want, you can go back and buy that season pass and earn stuff on it. Like that's a cool system.
Yeah, that's something I hope more companies do. But I know.
Why punish somebody because if they're willing to pay the $10 or $12 and they just didn't play for the first 1 or 2 seasons, but then they're like, hey, I'm really enjoying this 3rd season and I want to go back and earn some of that stuff that's mostly cosmetic anyways. Let me pay.
They don't do that because they want to recycle the seasons later and make it an annual event.
Well, maybe Halo's not doing that then.
They're not, but that's what a lot of games do where they're like, yeah, this is actually an annual event, not a season. You're just like, you sons of bitches.
I mean, in Destiny doesn't do that, and I haven't seen them release any of the previous ornaments. Mm-hmm. Like the cosmetic stuff you earn, I haven't seen them release those yet. They've released some of the previous loot, or they've given you new ways to get the guns that they came out like 2 or 3 seasons ago, but they've never had a way to go back and get those cosmetics that I can recall.
Mm-hmm. Then he asked about Death Stranding. I'll read this since Dave's... Death Stranding director's cut. Thoughts on the trailer? Just Kojima being Kojima, or is there more to it? I think it's just Kojima being Kojima. Do you think there's a realistic chance that he's like actually working on a Metal Gear, that Sony made the deal to let him do it? No. I don't think so either. I don't think Konami was going to give it up. I think he knows he can do that.
If there's something going on with Metal Gear, anybody that signs a contract with Konami or that convinces Konami to let them work on that IP, I guarantee you it's in the contract that he can't touch it.
That's what I would imagine too, because they have bad blood. I would imagine Konami's like, unless you give them an ungodly amount of money, but at that point it's not going to be the return on investment the company would want, because I don't think Metal Gear is popular, but it's not like a...
I don't think he wants to work on it anymore either.
No, I think he wants to just do his own thing. I think that's why he was trying to do PT, and that's why he ended up going to do Death Stranding, is he just wants to do something different.
And I think that he wants to do something different now, and that's why he's having a hard time finding somebody to publish his game, because they're scared, because of what happened with Death Stranding.
Yeah, I think his next game is going to end up being with. Do you think it's going to be with Sony or Xbox? Because there's rumors that he was negotiating with an Xbox.
I think it'll be. I think it's going to be with Xbox because. Sorry, if Sony was going to let him do anything, I feel like they would want him to be I almost feel like they'd want a sequel or something to continue through Death Stranding because they would want to build on the brand, and hope that hey, like there's been enough talk about this in general. Let's go forward with it because now you run through the same problem that I had with Death Stranding from the beginning of like what the hell is it? And now you're going to do another Kojima game, another partnership with him, and people going, what the hell is that?
And also Sony's announcing deals early, like they announced the Deviation game thing like 2 days ago. This randomly Herman Hulst like tweeted like, "Oh, we're doing another exclusive deal." I think.
Well, it was also when they they actually talked about their game on at the Summer Game Fest. I think.
But like.
And then the blog post came out.
But I think Sony would have announced, "Hey, our next game or Kojima's next game is coming here." I think they would have already done it just because they're competing with the Bethesda news or like all the stuff that Xbox has going on. I think they would have already announced it.
I honestly feel like Sony doesn't really have any counter punches right now because otherwise they'd be throwing them.
Yeah.
Like even in blog posts, like they would be doing
their
something.
counter punches aren't far enough in development for them to be full counter punches.
Yeah.
I
mean, I'll give Microsoft credit, man. Like I've seen some crazy advertisements this week. Obviously, I've been watching a ton of gaming stuff, so it's like all front and center. But I didn't realize it. But they got six releases in 6 months coming up. Like kudos to them.
But like Sony,
and they're all coming to Game Pass.
Sony could have a killer next year for an event because they have all these partnerships.
Like February, March to their 2022. Like they could do the same thing. They could probably do like 9 games in 9 months at the rate that this is going. They just
don't have that announcement now.
They don't have it ready yet. They don't have they're making the gunpowder. It's not in the bullet yet.
There's a chance next year we're going to be like, oh, Microsoft burned through all of their big hitters and don't have anything.
Well, but I mean at the same time people are giving them crap and they've got another longer event tomorrow like a show, interview thing. That sounds like some of that stuff that people are missing out on, Fabled and Avowed might be at least discussed. Hellblade 2 might be discussed, but it's really interesting just to see right now. And like, if I had to recap, and it's kind of teabagging on the question here a little bit, if I had to recap the kind of what this E3 meant to me is like, and I don't know how many people are boxing fans or not, but this E3 was Floyd Mayweather. It's just a lot of dinking and dodging and jabbing. Like there was no haymakers, no big knockout blows, just a bunch of like, okay, jab, 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 jab. And next thing you know, it's like you've gotten hit with so many things that you're done. Yeah. Like you lost and you're knocked out. But there's no Mike Tyson first round shot in the face. Yeah. Like, and that's fine. Like this E3 was overall like a 7.5 or an 8. Just a lot of games I think that are going to be really good games.
It was that E3 that reminds you like, you know what? The game industry's fine. If there's going to be stuff to play this year, there's going to be stuff to play early next year.
There was no holy crap moment. There was no game. I don't feel like there was really any game of the show. Yeah. There was there was no like I got to stand up. I'm watching a trailer or cheer and clap. Like there was nothing that I felt like I got any of that stuff. Or I was super excited about any of that. But there was a lot of that's really cool. Wow. Okay, that's cool. That's great. Yeah. Oh, it got a
Guardians.
Awesome.
It was my game of the show, but it was more relief that it didn't go the Avengers path. It was like okay.
So I mean, and that's fine. Like, and that's completely fine. That's what this E3 was like. And then maybe next year, like whether E3 does or doesn't happen, Summer Gaming Fest. Maybe there'll be something cool. Yeah. But I mean, that's just where we are. Next question. Stefan writes, I watched the Devolver Showcase and loved how they did it. Not just some people speaking monotone to a camera and a couple of trailers, but a full-blown piss take on the gaming industry. What were your thoughts? It's Devolver being Devolver.
They're so good at it. I don't know who's their writer, but the writing is good. The actors are really good because they throw a lot of shit for the writers to be able to like monologue out. Yeah. And the games look good too. Like I almost feel like Devolver sometimes they overshadow the games that they're announcing. But all the games that they show have a certain style and swagger that I feel like is absent from most of the trailers that we see in other companies. So like Devolver put a good show together. I love the Devolver cinematic universe, the Rio DCU. And I I hope they do this forever. I hope they actually did sell the VHS tape. Apparently, they did make one, and they did sell it to one person for.
It's like $1,000. I think my wife told me. It's crazy.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it was great. I laughed at it. It's funny. It's like a continuing story now. I look forward to like what other ridiculousness that they're gonna do, and then I'm like, oh yeah, there's games here too.
Yeah, and all the trailers look super stylish, though I couldn't tell you what half of them are, like game wise, and that's
that Temple Run game looks really cool. That looks really fascinating.
Yeah.
And they showed some other stuff that that looked really interesting.
But like we talked about earlier, those would be the games that me and you would have played at an E3, and then we would have been able to be like, this is what this game is.
Michael would have been like, I had a beer, a hot dog, and I played 4 games, and they were great.
And I smell like weed now.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you end up smelling like weed leaving those trailers.
Yeah. Our last question of the night from Chris. I'm guessing it's too late, but I really want a remake of Kingdom Hearts Union X as a games as a service multiplayer game.
Okay.
I don't even know what this game is.
Kingdom Hearts Union X is the mobile game that's been on mobile platforms for a couple years now. This is the most controversial thing in the Kingdom Hearts universe, because the way Kingdom Hearts 3 ended, you needed to fucking play the Union X games, and that was an ongoing game with story stuff. I would absolutely love just a Kingdom Hearts Union X movie, kind of like how they did some of the games in the collections, where it's like, hey, this isn't playable, but here are all the cutscenes prettied up so you can get the lore and story from them. Union X would do fantastic in that. I don't know how you would transition the gameplay to make it like playable on consoles, but I think if they can redo some of the cutscenes or story moments into either like an interactive comic or like something to watch, I think that would be great, because that was so frustrating. Like, luckily Sarah keeps track of the Union Cross storyline, because there's characters introduced at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3. I'm like, who the fuck is that? And why are they so important? Why are they monologuing right now? And it's like, oh, that person's important in Union Cross. You have to know this, this, and this. So yes, Union Cross as a games as a service multiplayer game could be interesting. I would rather just get the cutscenes animated and get more of a movie vibe for it, as opposed to doing a games as a service, which basically what the mobile game was anyways. Right.
All right. So that's our show for this week. Thank you guys so much. Regular show, actually. I mean, regular length for the numbered episode. A little bit of a nice end or E3 recap. Spotlights is obviously our Patreon, patreon.com/digitaldaysgaming, where if you enjoyed the content that you heard and you want to support us financially, you can do so. There's multiple tiers that you can do that with. Dollar tier is just essentially pays for 1 month of podcast servicing. 3 months gets you access to the Discord private channel. $5 gets you the episode 24 hours early on a private RSS feed, and $7 gets you a bonus monthly episode. We owe you an episode for May still, and I think that we're going to do some Ratchet and Clank talk as soon as Michael catches up, which is kind of ironic, and the first time I think in DDG's history that I'm waiting for Michael.
Yeah. I'll have it finished in a couple days. As soon as we're done here, I'm playing.
Yeah. So, no, you're good. I'm just messing with you. I was like,
it was weird. I was not expecting that.
Yeah. I full disclosure, I haven't worked since it came out,
yeah.
So that's so we'll do some Ratchet and Clank stuff. Our Patreon subscribers will get that a little early as well, maybe like 48 hours early, and then we'll have it on the feed. So if you want to check that out after you completed the game, please do so. That should be in the next 7 days.
Probably. Probably record it this weekend.
Yeah, so and then we'll get a little bit of catch up on some Patreon stuff. If you have topics or questions or things that you would like to check out, please let us know. Also, if you would like to see, just regular listeners, if you would like to see an episode or hear, not see, if you want to hear an episode from the Patreon, like send us a comment, post in the Facebook group, send us a tweet. If you want to maybe get a sneak peek into some of the content that we put on Patreon, let us know. And maybe we'll release an episode on the feed to give you guys an idea of what kind of what you're getting from the Patreon content, and maybe it might entice you to think about subscribing. And as always, we're looking for any kind of feedback on our Patreon. If you think it's too much, if it's not enough, there's not enough return on investment. You just don't do Patreon, that's fine. But it's just something that Michael and I, when we launched DDG, we were passionate about giving you guys multiple ways of supporting us, and that is a way, as well as Twitch subscriptions and PayPal donations directly if you want to. We just wanted to make sure that you guys had ways of showing support. Many of you have done that already, and you guys are great. And if you can't do it, then don't do it. And listening to the show is the number one way to help us grow. Sharing it is also a huge help. So anything that you can do, retweets, sharing on Facebook, telling a friend, holding your phone out while you're listening to it with our logo on it, just walking around the mall, like whatever. Any of those things kind of just help the show grow. But you can also follow us on social media, Twitter at Digital Days Pod. Michael's is at the first MJC, 1ST. Mine is at Good Dave Hunt. Links to the Facebook group and the Discord server are in the show notes. And I think that's all I got. You got anything, Michael?
No. Just be on the lookout for some Ratchet and Clank spoiler cast in the future. And then next week, we'll hopefully have other games to talk about. But it'll probably be Ratchet and Clank, at least for me. That's my focus. That's my main objective.
Got some more. I got to dig into Biomutant a little bit more, and I got to try some Mass Effect stuff. Dig into some Mass Effect. So I might do some more streaming for you guys this week as well. So come hang out there. So, all right. I hope everyone has a great week. Keep moving forward.
See ya.